Well, today I want to talk about Deep Carbon Observatory, which I used to start my current campaign, and the players who are still around from then thought it was the most fun of all the modules I've run. But you can get it in this little A5 book, which, it's kind of small. However, you can also get it in PDF form and just print it out. And it's simple enough that printing it out is just fine. So let's go over Deep Carbon Observatory. So the introduction is very short. Not much to it here. So you start off in the village of Karamir, and there's this disaster going on. And there's multiple things going on at once. And so the way I would run this is all three of these were visible at once, and the players would have to pick one that they're going to go interact with. And if they pick the middle one, then they'd be able to see all three of the ones on the next that happen next. But if they picked an in one, they'd only be able to see two of them. And usually what happens is the party splits to interact with all of these until you get to the bottom. All right. It gives you some description about what all these are. There's a flood going on, and you might meet a team of adventurers who have some hirelings who are the crows. I'll get into those later. Okay, so the crows are this rival party. And this other adventure party that it mentioned, they get killed by the crows off stage and turned into zombies. They are a really interesting group of characters. There's a fighter, a thief, a ranger who has a variety of really interesting poisons, including, where is that? Liquid dyslexia. Lasts for D4 weeks, can't be healed as is not a disease, can't be lifted as is not a curse, used on wizards. And then there's the magic user who creates zombies. It's a special staff that allows her to make zombies and several other interesting magic items that my players completely did not investigate or steal or anything. They just threw those away. Anyway, they have specific tactics that they use, and they don't get into a stand-up fight with you. They hit and run attack. They use various different ways to fight you, and my party was able to kill one of them, but they're still out there, and they even teamed up with the fighter from the group in a recent adventure. So one of the weaknesses of this module is the maps. The maps are just really terrible. The artistic style of this is the art's done by Scrap Princess, and a lot of people don't like her art. Some people do. It fits really good with some things and others doesn't. But her maps are really horrible, and there is currently in the works a revised version of this module, so I'll have to review it again once I get that, which has much better maps. So you start off here at Karamir, and there's various encounters that go on as you go up the river. And there's a random table of different debris you could find. There's some cool monsters, like giant platypus. This could have been a Lamentations of the Flame Princess module, except Patrick Stewart refused to compromise and take out the cow-sized killer platypus. He wanted that in there. And that's the reason that it's a module for any system. It's system neutral. It fits really good with Dungeons and Dragons. But there's various encounters that you come up with along the way, like these giant crabs that are attacking a windmill that has a woman and some children in it. First time I ran this, there was a character who was a bard with bagpipes, and he played and charmed the crabs into dancing. And finally, going up the river, you come to the dam, which has a variety of rooms that are uphill from each other in it. It's broken open. And the rooms have treasure in it. Really interesting treasure. And then on the other side of the dam is this whole world that was uncovered by the dam breaking and the water being washed away. There's these two different factions who are fighting a war. But one of the interesting things, below the water, what was the water level, are a bunch of shiny mirror-like formations that are all shining onto this pit, and there's evidence that fires were built in front of them to shine light on this pit 24 hours a day. So there's this pit. Interesting things that are in there. And then there's the pit. Now this is the first module I've ever seen that had its own video to go with the module. So you go down in this pit. And a lot of people think that when you have a dungeon where the idea is that you go somewhere and then you go in the dungeon, they think that getting to the dungeon is the module part, but really getting to here is such a struggle. But that is the real module, and then there's the pit. And the whole thing is a big stalactite. But the maps, having this as your only map was unsatisfactory. So there is somebody who has made, a fan has made top-down maps of the different floors. And these were much easier to use on Roll20. I'm missing them now, but I would have to look at this map also as I'm running it so I could get everything in the right place. But yeah, there's all kind of interesting things. There's a creature who is a golem made from super expensive silk, which my players set fire to. And before he wrote this, Patrick Stewart wrote another module that has no pictures at all, and that is the only place where he's delineated what the value of the different drow silk are. And there's a room that has several bales of the stuff, and a golem made out of the most expensive form of silk. And the players just set fire to it. They just threw the bales away. They didn't understand the value of it. So, lots of interesting stuff. Collection of hardwoods, dinosaur hieroglyphics that are like a spell. If you read them, dinosaurs come to life. Here's the translation, and if you translate, then dinosaurs attack. Or there's the vampire strata. There's ultra compressed and tectonically warped billions of vampires. The space between vampires is actually more vampires. So lots of interesting, unique things, interesting, unique magic items, interesting, unique creatures. as I said, this was probably clocks for geological time. And the thing you're building up to is it's called the Observatory for a reason. There's a telescope that allows you to look at the Underdark. And here's like a thing that tells you what you see. I didn't find that useful. What I did instead is I took this book. This is written and drawn by the same writer and artist, same writer and artist. And I looked at the monsters in here and used those and then described one of them to just tell them what they're seeing in there. But yeah, that Veins of the Earth ought to be, this could easily be considered a prequel to Veins of the Earth. And the biggest treasure, and there's this monster. It's a giant, really unique giant, but it's the main monster that's guarding all this treasure. And there's like a timeline of what happened in the past and what's going to happen in the future if you don't do anything about it. And somebody has made an index, which I added to mine. So as I said, I found it better to just get the PDF and print it out because it's not that dark, not that expensive to print out. It's mostly white pages with some art. But it's one of the best modules I've ever seen as far as the writing goes. And the art fits the style of what's going on here. I will review this at a later time. This Deep Carbon Observatory could be considered a prequel to this.